WeeSpeak, your interactive online platform for quick English learning.
The basics of strategy.
Strategy is one of the most commonly used words. It's overused in the business environment. Some managers use it on a daily basis or even on an hourly basis. But you'd be quite surprised to know that a lot of those people don't really know what it is, or they actually make it too complicated. Let's just say they have a lot of misconceptions about what strategy is. If you come across a strategy course or master's, or let's just say lecture, you'd probably run into the let's say the summary that strategy is choice. So basically, strategy is a choice that you make to reach a certain goal. Now, practically, if we look deeper into that choice, there are two building blocks that are important. One is related to a who question, and the other one is related to a how question. So the first one is clearly obvious, is segmentation, is that who am I trying to sell my product or service, or who am I trying to reach out to? That's the who question, or i.e. the segmentation. Now the second one is the how question, is how am I really going to make my clients, or let's say my target market, happy? Okay, how am I going to make them happy? So once again, the first question is the who, is the segmentation, and the second question is the how, and that's related to the value chain, which is a more fancy word to describe how am I going to make my clients happy. Now, an important thing to note is that in the value chain question, what we're trying to reach is the unique, right? So the idea is to define a unique way to satisfy our clients or to make them happy, right? Let's say a lot of us are familiar with sports. Let's say if you ask the question who won the race, for instance, the Tour de France, or maybe who won the FIFA World Cup, the team that won is going to be obvious to everyone. Everybody's going to remember that. But the second team is going to be a bit more difficult to remember for a lot of people. And then the lower we go down the list, the more difficult it becomes for people to remember. And hence, the objective is to be remembered by people according to a line of service, according to a quality, or according to a certain treatment that we sell them. So the idea is not always to be the best, right? The idea is mainly to be unique. If we take a simple example, if we take the smartphone industry, for instance, there's a lot of smartphones that are into the market out there are pretty even in terms of quality and in terms of longevity, etc. But Apple, for instance, clearly differentiated themselves from others mainly by their design. That's really the unique point that they have over the other brands, and that's what they developed over the years. Now, another important question to ask is, how long does a strategy last? Research has shown that, on average across different industries, that it lasts around, on average, 7 years. Now, in certain industries like softwares, you're probably going to be in trouble after 1 or 2 years because it's extremely dynamic and innovation is really happens at a very fast pace. So after a year or a year and a half, it's probably time to review your strategy. In other industries such as energy, for instance, you can have, the duration or the length can be quite more important. And that's because, the investments are quite important and it's a lot of research is needed, etc. Now, there are a couple of factors that we can consider and that can sort of help us to understand the length, after which, or the length that we have to operate our strategy in, or after which we have to review it. One is the competitiveness that we have in the industry. Okay, how big are our competitors and how how resourceful they are, how they can deploy new strategies, etc. That is one. Second is barriers to entry, right? If it's an industry that requires a lot of resources and investments, it's probably less likely that you have new entrants that could bring new strategies, etc. And the other one is how assets are deployed. If assets can be deployed very easily and quickly, that means innovation can be applied in a very short amount of time, and that's where you're looking into disruptive sort of new entrants. And the tech industry is a very good example of that. So overall, strategy will last some time. It's not necessary to have a strategy exercise maybe every 6 months or every year, but it's good to sort of look at it and update it and sort of see how it matches with the current state of the market and what its evolution as well. I think maybe before the budget exercise, that time can be a good time to do a strategy exercise or just check. And some business have let's say annual cycle as well. It's good for them to maybe, and it usually ends around August or July, so it's good for them to have that exercise right before that time. And it's important because the environment, regulations, and a lot of things constantly change. So the environment is constantly on emotion. So we don't want to be motionless. Otherwise, it's we go the other way. Now, when it comes to implementing the strategy, that's it's another subject, obviously. But there are two main principles that can be quite helpful when it comes to implementing the strategy. One is the sort of the finish line. So basically, it's the translation of the strategy into a tangible, let's say, objective. So let's just take a very simple example. Let's just say I'm a humanitarian organization, and my vision is a world without hunger, right? Is no hunger around the world. In poor countries, everybody sort of eats normally, right? That's my vision. Now, my strategy maybe is so it could be, for instance, to teach people how to cultivate lands, right? So this is a strategy based on building competencies, for them to trigger or to fix their hunger problems, right? Now, my objective is to, let's say, train 5,000 people per day. So that's my strategy, that's my objective. And I assume that it's related to my strategy because if people know how to cultivate the lands, then they'll be able to, produce what they'll be eating, and they'll be able to fix their hunger problems that they've been facing. So this is the tangible objective. Now, I can follow it up. So the tangibility of the objective depends obviously on my ability to follow it up, right? If I say I want to train 5,000 people per year, so that means maybe the quarterly objective is to train 1,250 people, right? So that means I can put a surveillance on that objective and sort of follow it up, right, in its progression. And that's sort of